Sheriff Doug.
Stand by.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, if you'd like.
No.
Lights?
Okay, we're live here at a debate that was set up for the sitting sheriff to debate the constitutional candidate for sheriff, and he refuses to debate, so we set it up anyway. He's notified. They've actually been taken down live accounts, so we're going live.
Sheriff Clifford, got a question for you. Doug Traubel would like to debate you. Are you going to debate Doug Traubel?
I'm not.
Why, and why not?
If I'm gonna win, I'm gonna debate him.
Please leave this up for a minute.
Without debate, without
This is what
criticism.
Kennedy said, without debate, without criticism, no administration. And stand. It's an excellent vote. I wanted to do that up there, but that's okay. But as you've seen, as you folks have seen in this video, that attitude does not reflect that of a government. You in this room to rise up and take an active part in the approaching election for being sheriff. I reiterate that word. I'm going to win. I know he. People of Vandy County must seriously consider transparency with merit and evasiveness with suspicion. Former reflects our standards locally, whereas the latter is a national disgrace, which is not welcome in our community. We must refuse to allow the same pattern of disrespect and manipulation to gain a foothold among us. Our families, our safety, and our future are too important for us to entrust to someone who cannot honor the basic traditions of the American electoral process. However, we still believe in the resiliency of our system and the importance of continuing today's event. The debate will proceed because the public deserves to hear from someone who does respect this process. Our remaining candidate has honored your call to be here, stand before you and make a case for why we should leave our sheriff's office. So let's continue this meeting with the full focus on what matters. The future of Ada County law enforcement. Please note that each candidate's invitation includes the option to select a personal moderator who would ask questions from a pool of questions that they have independently developed. Additionally, each candidate has an outline of the debate format, including moderator questions, audience questions, and times allotted for remarks, rebuttals, and responses. Dave, you want to? Doug, you want to show that there is one there? The same thing is over at the other podium. The outline was made available and put on the podium. However, only one candidate has respected this, so here's what we're going to do today. Before introducing Doug, allow me the opportunity to introduce our moderators. And a moderator and substitute moderator and our timekeeper. Our moderators are Ian Carroll, raise your hand. And Matt's substitute moderator, Val. And I will be your timekeeper for today. After I introduce Doug, we'll proceed as follows. Doug will have up to 10 minutes for the opening statement. After that, the moderators will ask in a moderator discussion section up to 12 questions in an alternating fashion. Doug will be allowed 2 minutes to respond to each question. Then we'll transition to the community questions which have been submitted online prior to the debate and identified by first name only. Moderators may then ask up to 4 questions, also in an alternating fashion. Questions are selected for relevance and diversity. Doug will be allotted up to 3 minutes of response time for each question. And finally, Doug will be allotted 6 minutes for the closing statement.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on here. If you're just tuning in, we got a situation here where the sitting sheriff refuses to debate, live debate here with our constitutional candidate for Sheriff Doug Traubel. What you need to do locally, wherever you're at, is campaign for any time a man is running as the constitutional candidate for sheriff. Okay, because he's your last line of defense. The sheriff is so powerful. He can tell the president no within his own jurisdiction based on his oath to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state within which he serves to protect his constituents. This man here, Doug Traubel, this is his 3rd year running, and we're really hoping to get him installed. But it's so interesting that Mr. Clifford will not debate. So we're all live. There's already been live feeds that have been taken down, so I just went live with this. We're live on Facebook, on X, and on YouTube to draw as much attention as we can. We've been calling the local police department, the deputy sheriffs, and to talk with them and to say, please tell Matt Clifford to be here, but he won't. And he said, they just played the clip. I don't need to debate. I'm going to win anyway. Well, that's a misunderstanding of why we debate, right? Because we want to hear what you believe. And really, we see it as pretty cowardly. He knows he could not stand in the face of honest, real, succinct, propositional truths based on a constitutional candidate who takes him to the mat. He just won't be there. So anyway, let's get back in there. Let's hear what the sheriff has to say. We're going to do some more footage of this. You guys enjoy it. Again, this is going live just to put pressure on the local sheriff. All right, here we go. Let me turn it around and we'll get it back in there.
Here.
I had a choice, like, I would have liked the police department, but, as Tim said, we went to the sheriff's committee in 1986, the then sheriff of St. Lucie, John Duffy, came and talked to all the cadets, and that speech just set with me. It just kind of gave me a reverence for the office of sheriff, because I didn't know the difference at the time. I was a young man, 21 years old, and he explained the ancient origin of the office of sheriff, the unique authority and jurisdiction of it. And I thought, well, that's a position where a lot of good things could be done in that position. And so when I decided to hit the reset button, 9 years after serving in Chula Vista, I came up here and thought, I'd apply for the sheriff's office after seeing how beautiful the community is. I got hired, And, as I worked for the sheriff's office, I eventually established the first gang because I did not want here to become there. Right? That was in 1998. It was a very effective, proactive crime fighting unit focusing on gangs, working with agencies and the OCPD. And after 9 years of the sheriff's office, I transferred to the prosecutor's office, the county prosecutor's office as a criminal investigator. And so, final last 13 years of law enforcement experience. And I'm retired now, semi-retired. I don't have to be doing this, but I look on the horizon, I'm very concerned. I'm concerned not just for the uptick in fatigue and crime and gang crime. I'm concerned for the potential of our rights to be stepped on again, the likes of which we suffered during COVID. And the book of Acts, all about the whipped and seen artist depiction of him with his arms around the sword sort of thing, about to be whipped. And he asked the Roman officer, is this how you treat the Roman citizens? And in that moment, you see the status of a citizen. And during COVID, I felt as though I was a subject, and I felt as though my neighbors felt the same way. I mean, I was bold enough to go in the window, no one without a mask, you know? And you get the dagger. I just walked in like I owned it, and that was my attitude, you know? And someone gave the daggers, people kind of feel like, kind of perspective that they're not compliant. But as your sheriff, see, sheriffs have to take an oath. Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States requires all executive, judicial, legislative officers of the federal and state government to take an oath or affirmation in support of the Constitution. Now, that oath is not to a person, not to the president, the governor, the county commissioners, mayors, city council, to the Constitution. And our founding fathers knew history. And so baked into that expectation, that oath, baked into it, is a duty which oppose to stand between the false, the citizen, and the overreach. Now, some people say, well, Doug, who are you? You're the judge to determine what's constitutional and what is not. Good question. But our founding fathers knew the answer. Because our founding fathers thought only a judge could determine what's constitutional and what's not constitutional in real time. They would only require the judge to take the oath. It required the executive too. And the judicial officer, right? Judicial, executive, and legislative officer. And so what does that look like in application? Well, sheriff and his then 20 or elected officials in that capacity, sheriff gets that. So when sheriffs interpose, like physically stand between a perceived illegal overreach, the government, the Constitution, puts under justice. And the government is unrestrained. You see, the Constitution is a contract. It delegates authority to the federal government, Article 1, Section 8. The 18th thing says federal government can do it. And it makes many more powers to the states and the people under the 10th Amendment. It's a contract. And so your sheriff can understand this. And suppose it's federal relief when you get your gun. The state government can close your church down. The city government can close your barbershop down. Your sheriff has jurisdiction in the entire county. The only exception to this county will be the capital. The state police have jurisdiction over that children, primary jurisdiction. And the federal government, it's the county, the military base, the federal courthouse, the post office, and the federal island city. Except for that, the sheriff is the primary or the chief law enforcement of the CLEO. So I'm running for sheriff because I want to protect your quality of life from, so this is going to be Seattle for the effective crime fighting. Bring back the gang unit, bring back the reserve deputy program, forming the posse, delivering more effective law enforcement, crime fighting service. But on the other side, the rights of the crime. My old matters. And if you have a sheriff that doesn't understand this, then he might become subject. Subject. I don't allow that. I would not allow that to happen. So that's how I'm different. And that is the difference. And also, on a day-to-day basis, I expect you to operate your local law enforcement. There's something that I call preemptive. What that looks like is, upon being sworn in, when my first name is with all the teacher. And I will assure them, I will look into it. I'll until the mayor tells the chief to enforce unconstitutional act. Then you can expect me to propose. Now, by having that conversation up front, if the teacher would have a chance, and the mayor tells the chief to crush the citizens' rights, the chief can say, well, mayor, I've already had that. That's why I say, preemptive. By having the conversation before hearing comes. The chief can say, it's not compelling. It's you guys. Yeah. So it's not like I'm some wrecking ball going to the city, I know, arrogantly flexing my authority as the chief law enforcement. No. It's out of necessity. The right time, the right place, the right man.
Hey, can me and Drew go to the library?
No. Otherwise, my dedication was the division of labor, the city that has a whole city, and you're telling all the contractors in the corporate county area. But I know. I want you to raise your reputation without answer. Sure to know that I will step in. I'm going to roll over. Not one person. That's it. And I have a conviction of my oath. So it's probably less than 10 minutes if you gave me, but I think in a nutshell, I can tell you why I'm running those 2 seconds. By the way, it's not a contradiction when I say to my deputy that I will back them when the optics are bad, but it's a computational job. And I expect a deputy to own the ground understanding on it. They tell you, keep your hands ready to see stop moving around. And I accept and take action and grab you and control you. And if people's phones come out and they go south, I'll back my deputy as long as their actions are right, righteous, reasonable, and necessary within policy. I don't subscribe to a lot of sports, the largest crowds, and I don't care about the media, the Marxist media is war on cops. I want my deputies to know I will back them. That said, it's not a contradiction when in the next breath I say, well, hold them accountable if the actions are egregious, as happened in CUNA. If you're all familiar with Mr. Hickel, let's get it. I'll wrap it up. So the public trust is fragile and precious. It needs to be guarded. So it's not a contradiction when I say I back my deputy if the optics are bad. You can have the experience to know when it is and when it isn't. And on the other hand, say push back on the court of public opinion, or if I need to hold them accountable. That sergeant in is still strikes and he's still working there. Where's the accountability? How do you rehabilitate the public trust? And you just make some cavalier statement about someone's rights being stepped on. So I have the balance, and I'm out of time.
Thank you for those opening remarks. Enter the moderated discussion phase in which the selected moderators would be able to ask questions, and Doug will have a 2-minute response for each question. There'll be 3 rounds of this. We're still going to have the moderators we have go back and forth. We're going to start with Dow, who is the substitute, would be the substitute for Cliff, who's not here. And he'll ask a question, then Ian will ask a question, and they'll go back and forth. There'll be 4 questions total in this round. So go ahead, Dow.
So, first, I'd like to answer the question. Trouble, yep, trouble. The only exception I would recommend is when you are elected sheriff, we should let the criminals know that they're going to struggle. So I understand that you are what is called a constancy.
I know a little bit about that, and a little bit about Sheriff Matt, but everybody who's going around the country teaching what that means, trying to educate sheriffs. Can you please tell us what the definition of that is, how it's distinct from how other sheriffs do business and why it matters?
Yes, thank you. Well, I sort of touched on my opening. Most people, when they think of sheriff, they think of operates the jail and the unincorporated areas. And that's pretty much all they know, kind of more of a rural law enforcement officer. But a constitutional sheriff understands the oath, why it was required by founding fathers, what it looks like in action, that it's not to a person, right? And as I say, for the right reason, at the right time, right measure, we'll step into the gap anywhere in the county, right? It's not just relegated to the unincorporated areas. On a daily basis, that's where you see the sheriff, right? Typically, right? Or serving civil process, that sort of thing. There's lots of things the sheriff has. But a constitutional sheriff understands that he must step in. He's obligated by, look, at what value is owed when the person who takes it genuflects to the very forces within of his stand, right? The Constitution means nothing at that point. It's a paper. So a constitutional sheriff, to answer your question, front and center in his policing and his policy is that oath in the Constitution. It's a function of restraint and conviction, that great oath. You know, it restrains your powers and it's the courage to step in. That's what it's saying.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Traubel, for being here. Thank you, Sam, for the people, for the Constitution.
Thank you, Ray.
My first question is, what makes Ada County unique in your mind and special to you? And how does that affect your unique position as sheriff in this county as opposed to any other county?
Well, I have to answer that question. Go back to 1993 when I first moved here. It was apparent when I first moved here how healthy the community was. And one example of that is, so when I was working in San Diego at the time, I think we had the highest mortality rate for officers killed. And when we were in, and that's changed over the years at the time. And I remember being in processions and getting flipped off. No. And I came here and we lost our first officer, Mark Stahl. And the people shoulder to shoulder with signs, we love you, thank you. And even to this day, I think about that. And then we just lost our first deputy, Tobin Bolt, fine man, you know, and I never met him, but I was brother-in-law and I've come to know of him, you know, through the service. And so the contrast, it's the great answer to you right there, to how healthy this community is. You know, people here are patriotic, they love their community, they have a sense of community. I mentioned break up voicing, paint the town. These things speak to the quality of life and how we care for each other. And so that makes it, to me, a community worth serving, you know, sacrificing. I could be retired. I'm putting on hold, getting a dog and traveling and things like that because I want to protect this community. So that's the best answer I can give. It's a healthy community and I don't want to us versus them. I want the people working with their sheriff to defend their homes.
Thank you. I believe you may have answered some of this question, so feel free to do it. I was always thinking. But could you describe, I know for myself, and when I've spoken with some friends about, some strangers about what a sheriff is, many people have no idea the difference between a sheriff, police officer, chief of police, feds, they have no clue. And I think a lot of people in this room don't know as much as they like either. Could you just briefly describe the limits, the interactions, where the lines in the sand are, whatever you think we say on that?
Sure. So first of all, sheriffs are the only elected law enforcement officer in the country. Who's their boss? The people. The people. Okay. And again, they take an oath to the Constitution. So that's the primary. Now, in state law, Title 31, Section 2227 identifies the sheriff as a primary law enforcement officer. He's assigned the primary duties of enforcing the laws of the state of Idaho. The Supreme Court case called Max Prince versus the U.S. that further established that the sheriffs are the CLEO, the chief law enforcement officer of the county. There's 3,143 counties in the United States. Not all of them have sheriffs. Connecticut doesn't have sheriffs anymore. Used to. Hawaii and Alaska don't have sheriffs. In Seattle, King County, the sheriff's no longer elected. In fact, it shouldn't be called a sheriff anymore. It should be called the county police chief. The quote sheriff of King County, now being appointed and elected, does not have the autonomy now to step into Seattle and keep a church open. So sheriffs, they have the jurisdiction of the whole county, except for, like I said, there are certain federal buildings in this county and county buildings. So the distinction is elected, the boss, you're all the boss, okay? Oath to two constitutions. That includes the federal government, chief law enforcement, even over the federal government, as long as it's not in area of exclusive control, such as the military base. So my policy is the feds check in with me before they knock on your door. I don't want to ruin your rich.
Mr. Traubel, and to the audience, I think we can all imagine how this question might go where I'd have the chance to ask it to Clifford. But I think it's important to follow the money in politics in all, appointed positions and all elected positions. So I would ask, who are the biggest donors to your campaign for sheriff for Ada County? And will that, and how does that affect the way that you will actually carry out your job as sheriff of Ada County?
Thank you. My donors are individual donors. I mean, they could be as small as $10, $100. I've had some 500, I have had some 1,000 ones, but most of it's small donations. And it's very touching me. Great, and it's at meet and greets. I do a lot of meet and greets, and people, fill up those envelopes up at the end of the event. We find out how much is there, and it touches me because there's a connection there. People look you in the eyes, and they shake your hand, and they tell you they're going to vote for you. That means a lot. These difficult times financially, people are digging in their wallets and their purses and put money in an envelope because they believe in the message and they're supporting, they're loving me, and their confidence and support. I mean, that would convict me. I mean, I have to do the best I can do. The offer of perfection knows only one perfect person, right? And that's Jesus. And I fall. I fall short of that, but I will own my mistakes when I make them. We've seen some arrogance in the current sheriff and a lack of introspection and contrition and frankly difference with the rights. When my deputies do something that's egregious, I will own it and I'll hold them accountable because each one of you who has stepped up and supported this campaign, you want that, and I will deliver that. I'll own it, and we'll do great things, and we'll just do better. I'm not offering perfection. I'll make mistakes. I'll stand up front. I'll do my best.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes round one. We'll begin round two. And this time we'll start with Ian first. Moderator will have 2 questions in this round. Go ahead, Ian.
All right, to carry on, this is one that I'm always very interested in all levels of politics because I think technology is highly under-discussed in how fast it is shifting and how slowly or poorly we're keeping up with it. So how would you address the growing role of technology in law enforcement as we see around the country, as in the use of things like AI and drones and policing to allegedly make citizens safer, and the balance between the rising use of high technology versus the rights of the citizens within your county?
Great question. So what comes to mind automatically is I've been asked a few times of these red light cameras. I think I'm opposed to number one. I don't want a police state. I want effective policing without a police state. It's a balance, right? I like the human element. I like discretion. I stopped a gal once because her dress was pinched in the door of the car, and I just was a community service thing, and I walked up to the car, and she goes off me automatically, and I don't know what her history was with we're not a frame of reference, and but once she realized what I was doing, she appreciated that, right? So every contact either builds or erodes the public trust. If we take the human element out of it, and it's just a robot and AI. I mean, it's a police state. You're subject. You're no longer citizens. They just said there has to be the human element, discretion, and moral agency and discretion in how we interact. I've given people warnings when they've expected a ticket. Totally counterintuitive, and that becomes conversation that night at dinner. So every context, up or down.
I have seen signs around town that your opponents would meet with people who want to meet over the last week. So sure. If I or some of my friends, assuming you are elected, wanted to discuss something, what would that look like? What should we expect? What would you want from us as far as what we're bringing to you so we don't waste the time? Because I have a feeling if you get elected sheriff, as much as we'd like to sit here and be happy and say, okay, that's good enough. We might still want 5 minutes of your time. What would that look like?
I'm going to answer a question with a question. Who's my boss? You said no, your boss? So I would just be going an outline of the topic so I can prepare, respectful of your time as well. I'm prepared for the discussion, and we'll put it on the calendar, it's too practical, we'll get you in face to face. Yeah, yeah, you're up. Simple.
In the spirit of following up on that, obviously, it's important not to be overly critical in personal attacks to your opponent, but I would be curious to hear, based on seeing Matt Clifford's performance so far as sheriff of Dayton County, what is your number one criticism of how Matt Clifford has performed his duties as sheriff of Dayton County so far?
Well, yeah. I don't believe he understands his oath. And, I say that in part because his public statement involving the $250,000 payout to Mr. Nicola McKinnon's in it. He showed a difference for the citizens' rights. And then, in fairness to him, he was not sheriff when an event happened at the courthouse, but he was asked about it as a candidate to be appointed. And that incident was when people were arrested for failure to appear when they were in fact there in obedience to the subpoena commanding them to appear, were denied entry to the building because they wouldn't wear a mask. The judge ordered deputies to arrest them for failure to appear. The deputies did that. They rushed the crowd. People were entered. They were dragged through the same door without a mask or denied entry earlier. That was a violation of Article 1, Section 18 of the state constitution that guaranteed access to the courts without prejudice and without delay. You know, the government's hand over your face in the form of a mask is prejudice. Your medical choice not to wear it should have been honored. The deputy should walk those citizens arm in arm into the courtroom because they're oaths not to the judge. Now, when asked about that, and I was asked the same question in this testing process when we were competing to be appointed, he said words to the effect of, you can check this with Jackie Davidson, the Republican PC, the 89 Republican Party PC. Words to the effect that he had no problem with what happened. And my answer was what I just told you. The proper course of conduct for my deputies, being constitutionally trained, would have been to deliver the citizen, not crush the subject.
Mr. Traubel, I'm out putting up signs for you, passing out flyers, talking to people in my Uber, and convincing them to vote. Thank you. I wish I had, 10, okay, or 1,000 with me. Every day.
I'm not the crying sheriff anyway.
No, tell us what we can do this last week. I mean, this is it. You know, I'm thinking I'm gonna get 4 hours of sleep. You know, goes for grandson. But what do you think would go as effective?
I mean, I can see the emotion in your question because you believe in the message and it touches me. And what you can do is, because the election's on now, not November 5th. So you all have contact lists in your emails, you have your spheres of influence. Double down. Double down. We're not winding now, we're doubling down. Okay? I'm the third party candidate, yes, but the third party candidate, yes, but people need to understand the Republican and conservative are not synonyms. Okay, and
Yes.
and I did change part of the chess move. If we get people to understand the principle over party,
Amen.
we can do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes round 2. We'll begin round 3 now. Response time is still the same, 2 minutes. And this time we'll begin with, Val. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, these are our questions?
No, you're still in the moderator. Yeah, your question. Right, your question.
I just,
You ran out?
okay, I sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Traubel, so far, all of our questions have largely revolved around policy, but I think that one of the beauties of this forum, where you're speaking directly to constituents, is our ability to also ask questions about the people, and your personal experience as a man. So I was wondering if you could share with us a story or something about what first inspired you to get into law enforcement, or maybe something that kept you going along the way.
No, but yeah, actually, the show Adam's World. I thought it was a great show. I saw how they were serving people, and there was courage involved, and there was servant's heart. It just captured me, and playing, cop and robbery with my friends as a kid. I remember my dad had this like utility truck. We used it as their SWAT vehicle. We jump out of the back with a machine gun. I guess I was just, I don't know, awe-inspired by the way that the professional conduct of the officers in M12 reading with Floyd, conducted themselves, and it just spoke to me. And somehow, I became a reserve officer in 1984 because I was taking a Taekwondo, and there was a sergeant, a full-time sergeant in the class, and he told me about the reserve program. And again, I reflected back on how, well, we need to do this like part-time, you know? And so then I went to the program and just got one more pulled in because now I'm in the street working with full-time officers and I'm seeing the tragedies that they deal with. I mean, if you have a servant's heart, it's a good place to be. If you don't have a servant's heart, it's an awful place to be. It's a distinction between a peace officer and a police officer. I just want to be the peace officer side of it. And that doesn't mean that you get rolled over. I mean, I'm not timid to use force to protect myself or someone else. But the peace officer's mindset's different because there's the least amount of government, which in the final office is force, to resolve the situation. Like if I'm in your home and there's a domestic dispute to separate the parties, I'm all about, as possible, letting one party, hey, you want to get a toothbrush and leave for the night? We have to throw everybody in jail. They're one size fits all. Risk management policy. That's being a police officer. A peace officer gives moral agency, discretion, communication, verbal judo, right? And so the answer goes back to that as well, and it's sort of evolution when I became a reserve officer and modeling my style after certain officers that were bold and courageous, but also had tender hearts. And that's kind of how I modeled myself.
Do you have any other questions, Ian?
I have one more.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess lastly, the concept of being a constitutional sheriff came up before, and I grew up near to King County that you were referencing earlier in Washington State, where we saw tremendous defund the police movements and the outcomes of those movements once Black Lives Matter protests erupted around that city. And so the discussion, the debate around how you train your officers and how much preparation you give them, what kind of preparation, that's very close to me, and I think it's probably close to a lot of Americans. So I would ask, could you give us some sort of summary or notion as to what you would do to train your officers, deputies, to be more aware of how to be a competent constitutional officer, so to speak, and how to uphold your perspective as a constitutional sheriff, as opposed to a traditional law enforcement officer model that our federal government seems to promote?
Thank you. What you're really talking about is the culture of an agency. How do you change the culture of an agency to be competent? To have that lens that I'm trying to share with you. So it's to start with, to get your command team, all your captains in one room, and your FTOs. FTOs stand for field training officers. Those are your influencers. So when I lateraled from San Diego to Ada County, I was assigned a field training officer, and then I went to the next one, was 4 phases of training. Those are the influencers that inculcate into a lateral transfer or a rookie with no experience the culture of the organization. So it's top to the top down, right? So to accelerate that change, I want to get the influencers and the command staff and start teaching to have continuity of ideology. And then we can look at some of these like first-time audit videos that are all over YouTube, and we can learn from those too. Let's not be that guy. And the second audit video, let's not be that guy, right? We're not right crushers, we're right protectors. And so you need to coach the culture. There's a learning curve, there may be some pushback, but I think most deputies would want to work for a sheriff who isn't woke, right? And like I will stop this implicit bias stream, which is a Marxist construct.
Yes.
Because it slows down reaction time. When they should be assertive and controlling the actions of someone in front of them, and their analysis paralysis, oh, am I going to survive the contact, but not my administration, not the complaint? No, I'll back you. I think deputies will respond to that, knowing the sheriff will expect them to do their job, be safe, and be constitutional. So it's a cultural, we're steering the culture towards the Constitution and towards getting rid of this influence of Marxist social justice that ballots of loud voices in the largest crowd. That's good.
Perhaps this was included in what you just answered, but it seems to me you're going to have a bit of work undoing a bunch of DPI stuff, because it's already there.
Yep.
It's been being taught in the university, in school, where you are. Any specific thoughts about how you might get the flash around?
I think the deputies be relieved that it's called block training. If you look at a calendar, training calendar, there's blocks of instructions. And I think blocks of instruction repeats every year. It could be like CPR, EVOC, emergency vehicle operation course, arrest control, right? And so it puts a bias training is one of them. They'll be relieved to have that nonsense out of there. They'll be relieved. streets, they're realists, right? And to have this seed of timidity and second guessing put in their head to be relieved, have it gone. They'll be safer, they'll be more assertive, and they'll be more constitutional.
Thank you, moderators there. We'll stand by because you're going to continue on with other questions. That concludes our discussion, moderator discussion questions. We're going to enter the audience question phase now, in which Doug will have 3 minutes response time for each of these questions. Each moderator gets to select from what's already been submitted online, and they'll be asking 4 questions each. We'll go ahead and begin with Ian. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Doug, one more time for all the great answers in the first segment. This question comes in from Gina, and she asks, why are people getting the mistaken impression that you are anti-Semitic?
Oh, okay.
Great.
I expected that question. So I wrote a book, the subtitle is long, I'll give you a little title, it's called Red Badge, a veteran peace officer's commentary on the Marxist subversion of American law enforcement and culture. You're talking about Marxism, you have to have a chapter in there that talks about where it came from, the origins of Marxism and the origins of the first communist country, which is the Soviet Union. So chapter 2 talks about that. It's objective history. And there would not be a Soviet Union if not for the Jewish influence on the philosophy. Karl Marx wrote his most Mordecai Levi. This is not a hit or something that's make it objective history. If I said to you that Nazi Germany was filled with Germans, is that an objective fact? Or am I anti-Teutonic? You know, I have many Jewish supporters. You have to be mature enough to read. Look, it's the left tries to do some sort of character profile by being triggered. It's not my writings, it's the revelations in my writings that they have a problem with. I talk about race and crime, the demographics of crime too. Let's have an adult conversation in this country about some things. And Marxism, we're in the midst of a Marxist cultural revolution right now. So chapter 2 is simply the origins of the Soviet Union. Now later Stalin went after the Jews, right? It's history, and some people get triggered. And most people who have made that comment have not read it. What they've read is someone's mischaracterization of it. They are citing as a source someone's characterization, but not the writing itself. And when they sometimes do actually point something in a book, it's out of context. So it's an ad hominem attack is what it counts. My name's on it. I'm not a coward. I wrote it. I stand behind it, and it stands by itself.
Check out the Jewish Brother Guide and see.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that.
This question comes from a man or woman.
Okay.
There have been concerns about the treatment of citizens at public buildings, especially in the protests and demonstrations. How would you handle a situation where citizens are protesting mandates or government policies at public buildings?
Now, well, the First Amendment's very much in play there, right? So we defend their rights to take out the truth to power. I mean, as long as it's an orderly event, right? And frankly, the First Amendment, I stand on that more than do some like fire code or something, limiting the number of people in the right code versus the Constitution. So I would defend the rights of the people to speak their mind. I mean, you see, I don't know what you're talking about. I've seen some like city hall type coverage in the news where they're arresting people for just simply speaking loudly. They're not. I mean, so what? I mean, so I would interpose and protect people's rights.
This is a question that comes from a man named John, and he asks, with the immense growth Ada County has seen, coupled with the unprecedented number of illegal aliens coming into the United States, what is your plan to address violent and property crimes? Will you take the necessary steps to stop the spread and formation of criminal gangs?
Yes, yes. So part of that is re-establishing the gang unit that I started in 1998, getting that back with full-time unit, and also as force multipliers, forming a posse. And that can be like, this is on patrol, we call posse on patrol. Again, I don't like the camera situation, I like the human element. So let's work with citizens who are willing to serve in that capacity, control their own neighborhoods, have a radio, observe reports, not confront, leave that to the dead, no one's going to get hurt. Unless you're attacked, expect you to defend yourself with the posse, of course. But that's, so the gang unit, the posse, yes. The illegal immigration part of it, sheriffs cannot enforce federal law, so it's really frustrating to have to wait for one of these invaders to victimize one of my citizens before I can then arrest them. But I will use section 287G of, let's see, what's the code? I can't remember. I gotta look at my notes here. It's federal, it's kind of more sizzle than steak, but yeah, it's 287G. It's named after section 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act. And if you read it, you get all excited. Oh, they're going to give local law enforcement the power to enforce the immigration law. In reality, all this is to do is in the jail put a hold on someone. So if someone commits a burglary and have them be, and we can interview them in the jail. It gives the authority to determine they might be illegal. We put a hold on them. But it's more sensible than state. It's frustrating. The fact of the matter is, the federal government has abdicated Article 4, Section 4. It's supposed to protect from invasion. And really, the governor should be forming their own militia and on board at this point, because the sheriff's going to do so much. And in that respect, it's largely reactive. So we have to wait for you to commit a crime. This is an invasion. This is part of the revolution.
Very well. There's no long from 8. We live next door to a multi-generation of drug dealers, sex offenders, felons, and constant traffic all night to the early hours of the morning in our homes. The people in the home have warrants, and one in particular for things. The SWAT team has been to this home several times, and one in particular having 72.08 grams of fentanyl, marijuana, abundance of firearms, etc. On June 16, 2023, there was an OD of fentanyl. No one was arrested, and there were children in that. We put security cameras outside around our home, trying to keep our family safe. Our children cannot play outside in our front yard because of the constant activities next door. The law is not on our side to keep our family safe, and this is extremely frustrating. The drug dealers are not in jail and continue to sell drugs. I'm tired of hearing the excuse for no comment on an active case. This has been going on 5 years. Wow. Our community is not safe. Our children are at risk. When are the felons, drug dealers, registered sex offenders going to be arrested, convicted, and get all of this?
Well, I'd like to find out more, like, where is this? If it's in the city limits, I would get with the chief of that agency and say, it's something, can I help you? It's like a force multiplier. Can we invest some more resources in this? It's a matter of, because look, like, I think last I checked, and the current data, for CPD, for example, they're like 40 officers short. Already don't know how many short they are. 80 counties recruiting right now too. So it's a challenge staffing wise. It's not an excuse, but I'm saying maybe if the incident, if something going on in the neighborhood outside of my normal patrol area, but I have jurisdiction still in the city, right? And this kind of complaint comes up to me, what can you do, Sheriff? Well, I don't want to offend the city. I have jurisdiction. Let me start with them first. Hey, Captain, this is trouble, Sheriff problem. I want to share this complaint with you. Is there something we can do to work together on this? Because I realize the challenges of manpower and stuff, but I have jurisdiction. I don't want to be like this wrecking ball, just goes in and starts doing stuff on my own, and because that could cause what's called a blue on blue shooting or something, right? Too. But if you've heard that, where I didn't know that I'm active in their city. We need to communicate, work together, right? So I guess the first step in that is to try to do a better job at managing resources and backing each other up. If you need help, let's build it down together.
Thank you. This question comes in from Tim. He asks, investigative journalist Leo Holman has reported that on September 27th, the U.S. Department of Defense issued a federal directive number 5240.01 that allows U.S. military troops to be used to, quote, assist state and local law enforcement upon request with actions up to and including lethal force. 2 questions. 1, do you know about this directive? And 2, if the U.S. military attempted such an action in Ada County, how would you as sheriff respond?
Yeah, I do know about it. The word assist kind of screams at me. I would not ask for that kind of assistance. And of course, if the federal government were to determine that tyrannical against the people, I'm going to stand in the gap again. And that's another reason why I want policy members. I don't go to war with our government, don't misunderstand, but I have a duty to protect the citizen, and I'm not gonna ask for that kind of help. You know, look, law enforcement is a local and state function, and that's why I like the idea of posse. That's why, if you look at our state constitution, 1890, the militia is mentioned. It's not the National Guard, which was formed in 1903. It's not the state police, which was formed in 1939. So in 1890, what did militia mean? It meant the people. We the people. We don't need the federal troops to come into Idaho. We can need to reestablish. We need to go back in history, look at our founding document for Idaho, state constitution, and understand what that meant. What was the intent? And bring that back too. The posse, my posse, is kind of a militia at the county level. So we could have a militia statewide. So there's no reason for the federal government to step into that space. It's not their function, it's not one of their delegated duties.
Question comes from Derek. What would you do differently than Scott Johnson in regards to COVID lockdowns, mask mandates, and the incident at the courthouse in March of 2021 where he commented simply about seems like he could answer this.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, so again, that's a situation where a judge ordered the deputies to arrest these people for failure to appear, which is absurd because they're there, right? And they were denied entry because they wouldn't wear a mask. So the right course of action would have been to ignore the judge, defy the judge's order, and deliver those citizens to the courtroom in obedience of Article 1, Section 18 of the state constitution. So what happened, it was unacceptable. People were turned from citizens to subjects in an incident, literally knocked down. So, I mean, it's so egregious. And again, how do you rehabilitate that public trust when that happens, right? You know, I mean, the only way to possibly do it is to own it and then reflect. I know, looking back on that, you know, I wish I could have heard that from the sheriff's office. That was wrong. We didn't honor our oaths. You know, we feel ashamed. We're asking for forgiveness. You know, I didn't hear any of that. It's just the arrogance of power. So I would have handled it constitutionally, as I said, deliver those citizens. That's a big difference in approach.
Thank you. This is actually, so because we have so many questions that came in on the internet already and your other responses, we actually have a question that came in from an audience member here in the room. And if I'm portraying the question correctly, it is that there are sort of rumors and rumblings coming up that Representative Matt Clifford's wife may be holding some sort of position within the sheriff's department under his administration, so to speak. Do you know anything about that, and can you comment on that in any way?
I don't know anything about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our audience questions that have been submitted and came in today. We're now going to enter the closing statement phase. And since we only have one candidate, Doug gets 6 minutes for his closing statement. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. That's really just a reiteration of everything I said, I suppose. It's just, for me, it's important that you understand that I understand my oath. And I'm open to any questions, even after today. My email is Doug for Sheriff. Was it Doug for Sheriff? My email. Yeah, Doug for Sheriff, proton.me. Doug for Sheriff, proton.me. I want you to be confident that I know my duty as a sheriff, and I know what my oath looks like in action, that I pack the gear in the toolbox to deliver more effective crime fighting. Because as I say, you guys have moved here from other places, most of you, like I did. There's nowhere else to run, folks. This is it. Our home, we defend our home. We defend it from government overreach, and we defend it from the common criminals. We defend it from these provocateurs. If Black Lives Matter comes to Idaho, to Boise, if they have a First Amendment right, I'll defend their First Amendment right, right? Because look, the Bill of Rights are the untouchables and they're nonpartisan, right? I don't have to agree with you, but I have to defend your right. But when it turns into violence, when a protest turns into a riot, I will not let some woke mayor tell the chief to give them more room to riot. I will step into that gap with my deputies, with my reserve deputies, with my posse. We'll restore order. We're not going to. I am not going to let this slide to Seattle, but I need your help. I need you to stand behind me, by my side, when I need it. And so that's what we're all about. There's nowhere to run, folks. There's nowhere to run. We're running out of country. And it takes courage. It takes conviction, it takes understanding our county ethos, and that's what I offer. I have that lens, and I'm not perfect. Again, I'm not perfect. I'm touched by the support and the pouring of love in the name of my team. I have an amazing team. And some of you in the crowd here, Steve, Sandra, I go on. So many people here that have me in their homes for meet and greets. You know, I go on and on, you know, Jim and Sandy and like this, you know, George, and I go on and on. It's touching, and I feel it's the love and the desire for more effective leadership and someone that's not going to bow to the establishment. I don't. I mean, I look at you as a Paul. And so I guess my closing statement is just that you understand that. And I'd rather be not understood than misunderstood. So that's why when I tried to share my unsuccessfully my email address, that I invite you to contact me for anything of, you know, that's not clear to you, because I want you to know exactly who I am and why I stand the way I do and what you can expect of me. I want you to raise. It's not true that they're just supposed to be maintaining the jail, the Tulies, and the contract city. No, on a day-to-day basis, yes, but when it matters, we need to hold your sheriff accountable. And I expect you to hold me accountable, because I will step in that gap, and I'll step in that gap with you by my side if necessary. You know, and that's what I offer, and I appreciate you, and I ask for your prayers for me and my team. This is a Herculean effort, and a third you know, party candidate, but it is winnable. And if God wants me in there, it's going to happen. And I just ask again to pray for my team and pray for this country. This is November 5th. This country is either, you know, going to pivot towards some authoritarian state, or we're going to start a restoration of the republic.
Yeah.
Just be right up there. I've been informed by the producer that we're way ahead of schedule. And so what we're going to do is kind of off our format, but we want to entertain 3 to 5 questions from you folks here right now. Raise your hand, and if we'll just ask you to stand up and speak loudly. We'll start with this gentleman right here first. Go ahead.
Maybe somebody could walk the mic to him too.
Yeah, well, you can use it. That's speak into it. Do it like this. Right up next to you.
So my name's Sean Cameron. This is important enough to me that I'm from Twin Falls. So obviously I don't have a dog in the fight, but at the end of the day, we have a dog in the fight. Because, you know, as that goes, I know I've lived for my whole life. And the one thing that really caught my attention was that, you know, with politics, we can make our mouths say anything. And we've all seen that it's gotten ramped up to a place where there's just no real action behind there's no breath behind the actual words. And so I'm just going to believe behavior doesn't lie. And as that goes, when I stand up and sit here and I look at you standing there before the people, I see that that's empty. And so, again, he has nothing to say, yet he said it all. And so it would demonstrate me if I saw that he got elected, because that would mean that we failed so much. And so when it comes down to it, is that I appreciate that he let us know exactly where he stands. And I really do appreciate the fact that he made this easy for us. Because really, anybody that says, I don't need to be here because I've already won, says that you don't matter. And I mean, that's ridiculous. So my question to you real quickly is this. I have my interpretation of it. How do you see when behavior doesn't lie? What does that behavior say to you?
Indifference towards the private citizen. Indifference towards the private citizen. The arrogance of power. You know, to be so confident that you're putting it in. Time goes that over you give someone, right? Time. And you're the boss. So how do you put the fear before the picture?
We're coming back. Hey, I'll be right back. I'm gonna come back. Be right back. Yeah, we gotta get my ID. We'll talk on here for a minute. Come on, we gotta get my ID.
ID. 42.
All right, well, we lost most of them that were really checking in. Oh, if you watch this later, this is a recap on what this video is. It was showcasing the constitutional candidate for sheriff and letting you hear what it sounds like when a man who loves the Constitution, who loves freedom, who loves Jesus, and wants to be the sheriff actually sounds like. What he sounds like is we the people, and what it means to have we the people as his actual boss. We need more of that. We need locally people that are active, that are doing all they can to really stand up for truth and for freedom. Go be a precinct committeeman, things like that. But also just to encourage you, upcoming more we're gonna do man on the street stuff with Dan and Lee as we continue to build roundtable media. Gonna be networking with a lot of people, and I am excited. So there's more to come. Anyway, hope you got something out of that. We need this guy, Doug Traubel, to win. One of the reasons we went live here with this is because they were live feeds that were currently taken down. Doug Traubel's own live feed on Instagram was taken down and things like that because they didn't want people to see. And someone said, well, the sitting sheriff, he's a good enough guy, right? Well, let me ask you this. When you're asked to come to an official debate and you say, I don't need to, I'm going to win anyway, what does that say about your feelings towards your actual constituents? Shows that you don't care. You don't care at all what you are doing as an actual public servant to meet the needs of those who have elected you, to actually abide by the things they believe. Most people are constitutional minded. They just don't say anything. They don't do anything. But so everybody needs a sheriff, right? Because the sheriff is the most powerful. He's the most powerful political pundit in your jurisdiction. He can tell the president no. So when you have one that abides by the Constitution, it's very powerful. But go look up, read about Sheriff Mack, read about what he did and the Magnificent Seven that stood against the government and sued them and won over the Brady Bill. Read about Doug Traubel and this is his third year running for the people when he could be doing other stuff. Like he just said, I'd rather go get a dog, do some traveling. He's stopping doing that so he can do that. And that reminds me, go think about Trump. You think that Don wouldn't want to go hang out at Mar-a-Lago, sip a drink next to his golf course? But he's doing this because he cares about America and about the people. So we're going to get out there and campaign for this guy in the last few days. Please vote for Doug Traubel if you're in the area, and vote for your constitutional candidate for sheriff wherever you're at. All right? Peace.